So good afternoon, everybody. This webinar is well overdue, and we needed it because there is issues many of our people would like to hear from those people who drive nuclear science and technology in the country, and also the input from the IEA side. So coincidentally, what I would like to start with is to tell you that please try to mute when you are not talking. We shall have a session after the panelists finish for asking questions. You can also use the chat. You can also use raising hand. We shall pick you up. And for now, so that we save a lot of time, because it's already 12 minutes past 2. And as you can see, I have a small problem, but we shall still manage. I will introduce the panelists, 4 of them. Oh, Professor Walter Oyao has come in. Welcome, Professor. Okay, now the best I will do is to introduce. I'm not going to read their CVs. I'm going to say who is here. They will deal with the rest so that we can save time. And you know, it's a very busy period. So, and I'm very grateful. The 4 panelists are now here. And I'll start with Professor Shaukat. Professor Shaukat is from International Atomic Energy. He's the director for the Division of Africa, and he takes care of very many countries in the region. And you know, he's one of our brothers from Kenya, and he did a lot, but he'll tell you the rest. We also have Professor Oyawa, who have seen come in, and I hope he is listening. He is the current Director General of NACOSTI, National Commission for Science, Technology, and Innovation. And it became National Commission from the Research Council, the Science Council, and it was a work of Shaukat who promoted it to that level. Then we have Engineer Collins Juma, who moved the Kenya Nuclear Electricity Board to become a Nuclear Power and Energy Agency. And he also doubles up as the focal point for IEA issues. However, I forgot to say that NACOSTI is the focal point for AFRA Regional Agreement Program, which has a seat at IEA or held by IEA, but is a regional driven program. He will tell you more about it. And then we have Joseph Minor, who also we can say is involved in promoting the Radiation Protection Board from the board now to what we are calling Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. So Joseph will also tell you about himself. He's a physicist, radiation physicist, and has worked a lot with us because he's one of our alumni. Now, for now, I hope if you are around me, I'll invite Professor Shaukat to start us off. Please let us know what you have for our people to understand your position and office. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. Let me try and share my slides with you. Can you see my slides, Professor?
It is coming. It is coming.
Yes, yes, we can see.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Prof. And really, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you and all the organizers for inviting me to come and speak today. When you asked me to come and speak this early afternoon, I was wondering what am I going to talk about? And I decided to craft my presentation in what you can see, the socialization of nuclear science and technology. I also take in cognizance that we have people like Collins that I'm sure they're going to speak more about nuclear power. And then we also have Oyawa, who is going to speak broadly about what you do in other areas of nuclear science. And then my friend Maina, who is going to speak probably about regulatory infrastructure as well. So I might not go to very details in those areas, but for the benefit of the participants, really, you're all aware that this agency was set up in 1957, and really to promote the use of nuclear science and technology in a safe, secure, and peaceful manner. And also, Kenya has been a member of the IAEA since 1965. And I think this is the time that probably you could pause and ask ourselves, what is it that Kenya has benefited from the International Atomic Energy Agency? It's not my intention, Professor, to go into details of projects of what Kenya is embarking on or Kenya has achieved over many years, but really just to shed light on different disciplines of nuclear science and technology. But you all know that today's most important advancements in science from investment is the nuclear physics research that really results into one area of production of nuclear power and other areas that I'm going to talk about. And as you go into the future, I tend to see this is one of the areas that really we need to focus on. There are many branches of science, including space science, biotechnology, nanotechnology, and so on and so forth. But the nuclear science, people tend to fear it somehow. And whenever you speak about nuclear science, antennas go up and people start thinking about what is happening in other parts of the world, what has happened before in Chernobyl, what has happened in Japan, and so on and so forth. But I'm here today to tell you that this is one of the sciences that really can contribute in the social economic development of many countries, as you will see in my subsequent slide. A peaceful application in many areas, Chair, and I will go into different slides. But most importantly, I see that the world economy, how it can be shaped by also contribution of nuclear science and technology. First and foremost is the SDGs. Our work here at the International Atomic Energy Agency contributes directly to 9 of the SDGs and indirectly to all sort of SDGs, and right from zero hunger, good health, clean water, sanitation, affordable clean energy. We are now being faced with the climate change, industrial application, and you will see in my subsequent slides what I'm talking about. So what we are saying is that we are actually part and parcel of the global agenda, so to speak. And we are also looking at here, at least in the division for Africa, we are also looking at the Agenda 2063 of the African Union, trying to address the challenges of the continent into developing the continent of the Africa that we want, and Africa that is going to be driven by Africans. Chair, just to give you some few examples here in terms of application, we are able to use this technology, for example, in the mutation breeding, both in crops and of course in livestock. And we can be able to do characterization of livestock and be able to do crossbreeding of livestock and be able to advance in that area. We also use this technology in what we call sterile insect technique. And a good example is Zanzibar, where we are able to eliminate the tsetse fly, and the social economic development in that particular sector of agriculture has really advanced. Another area that we can focus on is the isotope hydrology. And a good example, Chair, to give here is the Sahel project that the IAEA did with about 13 member states in the Sahel try to understand what is going on underneath in terms of water quality, quantity, and replenishment point. Other areas is food safety and quality. Chair, you all know that in many parts of Africa, including Kenya, post-harvest losses is a really concern, and sometimes it can take almost 30% of the cereals that we have produced. And the safety of the food as well, traceability of this food also is another challenge. So we can be able to use stable isotope, we can be able to use nuclear technology to really address some of these challenges. And in this slide, Chair, I would like to also zoom down into the climate change. We need to have clean energy, and I think this is where nuclear power has also got a niche there. We can be able to complement other efforts that are being done. And you all know that if you really want to advance and develop, then you must be able to have access, you must be able to have an energy source that is also going to drive your economy, especially if you're thinking big and if you're thinking of industrialization. So when you look at other areas in terms of application is on cancer, for example. We are able to use the technology in diagnosis and treatment of cancer. I don't need to tell you a lot. You know, this is ever rising in Africa. It's rising all over the world, and Kenya is not spared as well. I know Kenya is now expanding from Kenyatta National Hospital to Moi Teaching Referral Hospital, Kisumu, Nakuru, and Mombasa, and other places, including Garissa as well. This is very commendable. So the message here is that we are able to use radiotherapy, for example, to treat all different types of cancers. Nutrition is another area. Quite a number of children in Africa are being faced with stunting challenges, children under 5, and we're able really to use stable isotope to tell you what is the status in children, what is the status of in other areas such as obesity as well, using this technology. And the latest one, of course, in the COVID-19. You all know we've been able to jump in very fast to help the member states in terms of diagnostic, approaches of COVID-19, and Kenya is one of the countries that benefited with the PCR machines. We were able to assist 45 African member states and about 126 member states of the IAEA in about 250 or so laboratories, in all our member states. So these are some of the areas: radiation medicine, nuclear medicine, and so on and so forth. So you can see that is really this technology. It's really resonate with the social economic development. That's why I'm calling it the socialization of science. It touches our lives on day-to-day basis. And it's very important that the public do understand that there are many merits of using this technology. But above all, Chair, the areas of safety and security is very important. I'm sure my good friend, the regulator here, is going to shed more light of this. But I just want to emphasize we must be able to put a vibrant, regulatory infrastructure so that the technology can be used in a safe, secure, and peaceful uses as well. This technology, Chairman, will not be able to go to the next level if we don't build the critical mass. And especially if you're looking at nuclear power. You must be able to have people who can be able to drive it. So I am talking about the human capital development. We must be able to educate the next generation in all these disciplines that I have mentioned in nuclear science and technology. And I want to commend the University of Nairobi, in particular your institute, for the excellent work that you are doing there. I recall during my earlier days at Nakosti, we were able to have a postgraduate program between ourselves and where Collins is sitting now, and I want to believe this is going on. So we need to be able to continue developing curriculums. The agency is helping the member states in doing so. We must be able to have leadership programs in nuclear science and technology. Allow me to use the transformative leadership. And we must be able to go on and be able to build a knowledge management economy with the areas of nuclear science and technology. So it would be at the master's level, it would be at the PhD level, and all these are actually being offered here at the agency, probably at the national level or at the regional level as well in terms of our project. So it's very important that we increase the human capital, and it's very important that we identify and appreciate that every time you have built human resource capital is actually influences and be able to have an impact of your GDP. And this is very clearly documented, Mr. Chairman. And I think we need to make a leapfrog in this area. We must be able to build synergies. Institutions of higher learning should be able to come together. We must be able to have research chairs in nuclear science and technology. We must be able to have research finding. And I want to believe that Kenya, you stand on a very good footing. I think my days when I was there, I ensured that in the science, technology, innovation, bill that became the law, 2% of the GDP really was supposed to be set aside to support areas of areas of science, technology, research, development. I want to believe that you are on that track, Mr. Chair. Now, Chairman, as I come to conclude my presentation, I just want to share with you that following the pandemic that we are being faced now, our Director General, His Excellency DG Grossi, also initiated some initiative, and one is Zodiac, what we call the Zoonotic Disease Integrated Action Plan. This is really, Chair, again, to demonstrate the importance of nuclear science and be able to work very closely with partners such as FAO, WHO, OIE, and other donors and try to prepare, and build capacity and capability in our member states in terms of rapid detection and timely response to the outbreak of zoonotic diseases. So you can see, again, we are zooming down into identifying a specific niche that nuclear science and technology could be able to be used here, and in this case, in the areas of livestock, and of course in human as well, being zoonotic diseases, it touches both. The other thing, Chair, that is very important as we continue building capacity and be able to develop the human index, we should not forget the youth and, more importantly, the women as well. We must be able to have programs that will be able to bring our women frontline as well and be able to bridge the gap of gender. And it's for this reason that our DG, His Excellency Grossi, as well initiated the Marie Curie Fellowship Program, where we are going to start with 100 fellows from all our member states. And this is really going to be the master's program in all disciplines of nuclear science technology. So I'm also encouraging colleagues who are here, please spread the message. We've just concluded the first phase. We are going to award 100 fellowships. But again, the second phase is going to be rolled out. Please look at the space, check on our website. The advertisement is always there. Look at, follow us on Twitter, and you will see all this information. These are opportunities that we need to grab, and Kenya should not be left behind, and so many other African countries as well. Chair, this is my last slide, and really, if people are still doubtful on where they could be able to be as a result of their qualifications in areas of nuclear science and technology, I just want you to look at this, in a nutshell. You could be able to be a regulator, as some of you are here. You can be able to pursue nuclear law and be able to work in the regulatory body. You could be an inspector, and some of you have been, and there are inspectors here. You could be able to focus on research and development using nuclear science and technology. You can be able to come to the agency and work like where I am in the technical cooperation department or any other technical cooperation department that has got a component of science, technology, and innovation. You can be able to work on the development of certain products. You could work in sectors of water, environment, and so on and so forth, food and agriculture, and so on and so forth. So, Chair, you can see that the opportunities are huge. We have so much opportunities that you can be able to pursue in your career. And I really want to encourage the youth as well to be able to take up these opportunities in nuclear science and technology. Chairman, with these few slides that I have shared with you, really, once again, many thanks for the opportunity for me to share with you my insight on the socialization of nuclear science and technology for social economic development. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor Shaukat. In fact, you have hit the bottom of everything because you have tried to answer most of the questions we have been getting from the students. And since they are here, I hope you hang around, and then if they have any other questions, they can ask you and you respond together with your colleagues. And that's why we dreamed of this webinar purely to deliver the message of the importance of of nuclear science and technology. And I think now, if you allow me, the questions will come later. Instead of after we finish with the panelists, then the questions will be asked later. Please put your question on the chat, because we might not have time for everybody to ask. And now, if you allow me, I can call Engineer Collins, CEO Nuvea, to say his part of the deal.
Thank you, Prof. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon, we can hear you very well. Good afternoon.
Okay, if you can hear me, then I can proceed, Prof. Thank you for inviting me for this webinar. Kelly, when I got it, the invite, I was very delighted to come and share with you what we are doing at NUPEA. And I also want to congratulate you on the celebration for 50 years of the University of Nairobi and what the Institute is doing in terms of promoting nuclear science and technology. I think we've worked very close in the past, and we'll continue to work together. As Professor Shaukata said, that there's a seed that he planted, and he hopes that he's still being watered. He'll say something about that. I want to say that having joined the agencies in 1965, I think as a country, we've gained a lot in terms of TC. I want to thank the agency about that, and especially the Director for Africa, Professor Shaukat. Apart from developing the nuclear power, we also coordinate the TC projects in the area of human health, food and agriculture, education, research, environment protection, water resource management, and industrial application. And I think in details, Professor Shaukat has touched most of that. And the big bang we have is for the development of the nuclear power. And now maybe I need to touch on how we started this journey, where we are. We get a lot of questions out there. Why do we want nuclear power in this country? Is it safe? We can't collect garbage. We deal with the nuclear waste, and all and on and on and on. Yeah, but we need to answer this question. We only try to do in the best way possible. But this thing came on the table when we dreamt that we want to be in Malaysia or Singapore one day. And that time, someone thought that we can make it by the year 2030 and created the Vision 2030. So Vision 2030 came with the Vision 2030 flagship projects. I'm happy Professor Shaukat is still in the room, because he's the one who created this problem and left it to the people. And these projects, some of them were so huge. If you take the SGR was one of them. If you talk of the industrial park, that was another, Nairobi light rail, which I think I see being implemented. Then there was supposed to be a coal and iron smelting plant in Meru, and on, including Lapset. And then when you check some of these projects, they needed huge energy consumption. And we asked ourselves that now how do we go about it when we reach 2030? And I think the least cost power development team, which used to sit at energy, what is now called Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Commission, I think it's been shifted to the ministry, came up with the numbers of what we had in terms of both base load and the so-called green energy sources. And that time, as a country, we realized that we have a good potential of the geothermal. And we were also exploring the possibility of coal at the Mwea Basin. And there was also negotiation of getting gas from Qatar or sun gas from Tanzania to convert our heavy diesel engine plants to gas plants, and maybe do additional gas plants. And these numbers were up, and they came up with the numbers that would make sure that Vision 2030 run. When we reach there, I remember clearly that I think they were talking of between 18 to 22,000 megawatts. And so the question was that the ceteris paribus, if we develop all the geothermal and we extend all our hydros to the maximum, and we have our code with the limitation that we have after the Paris conference, and we get our gas from Qatar and from Tanzania, and also checking what we call the energy security. Do we have a deficit? And the answer was yes, there would still be a deficit. So people thought on the table, around the table, that was the National Economic and Social Council, where Prof used to sit. And I think there was an old man there called Professor Chung from Korea. I think there were 3 foreigners there. And he said that nuclear has worked very well for Korea. Why don't we try it now that it's a long term? Because it takes around 10, 15 years to do what they call the infrastructure issues before you can commission the plant. So if you want it in 2030, maybe you start now. But I think the government said that time that they don't want it in 2030. They want it. They wanted it this year, by the way. The plan was that we form a committee under the Ministry of Energy to fast track. Fast track was the word, until we realized later that you can't fast track nuclear power development because it goes, it's a case approach, it goes step by step. So the committee, I think, approached the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they were given the milestone approach to develop the nuclear power program. And they realized that 2020, that was 10 years, was not possible. They informed the government that maybe, if we work very hard, maybe 2020, between 2027 and 2030. And KNEB was formed now as a statutory body using the executive order with the same mandate. And KNEB the feasibility study and implemented some of those quick wins after the inner mission of 2015. In fact, we were supposed to have had a follow-up inner mission last year, and then COVID kicked in. But what came from the PFS is that we wanted to form a regulator. I can see Mr. Maina in the room. We started working on the bill for the regulator, which was enacted last year. We need a site. We wanted to do the site characterization, prepare the TORs, and then we had some work in progress, like training of people. Professors just said that you need people to run the plants. And then also you need people to accept the plan, what we call the buy-in or the public acceptance. So these are works in progress that we keep on doing. Actually, we've even tried to call them recurrent because they are there year in, year out. But these are 7 countries which are doing additional fleet. The issue of not in my backyard still comes in. And we walked this journey until the point now where we have a regulator, and we are implementing other projects like the research reactor in Kansas City. And we want to start the site characterization for the nuclear power plant. But there are activities that are going on, like the technology assessment, and then the follow-up mission with the agency, and then the strategic environmental assessment, which we've done, but we are continuing with capacity building initiatives. I think that is, in a nutshell, what I can say, what we are doing at NUPEA and also coordinating the TC projects. Prof, I don't know whether you want me to say more than that, because we can discuss about nuclear power program until the cows come home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer. It is very good, but I thought you could have also mentioned how safe it is if you bring the nuclear power to Kenya, because that is a very big question which is going on.
Yes, yes, I hear you, Professor. I said, and I know it would come as a question. It's only that now maybe I can answer my questions and take a walk. But I said in my opening remarks that nuclear power was meant for Vision 2030. And we also agree that when we attain Vision 2030 status, then we are like Malaysia and Singapore. And in those countries, I know we compare our waste here with the nuclear waste, which is totally different anyway. But by the time you are reaching the Singapore state, even having a waste management problem should not be a problem. But coming back to nuclear is self-regulating. And I want to say that the vendors are very few in the world, and that's why they've mandated an agency called IEA to give you the program to follow, so that they ensure that you get all those infrastructure issues right. If you get them right, safety is one of them, security is one of them, waste management is one of them, then you find that you are doing it with the right way and the right vendors. And they won't want to spoil their name by coming to bringing their plant to a country which is not ready with those issues because they want to do business elsewhere. So it's like a plane, Prof. Yeah, the probability of an accident is always very low, but the impact of that low probability is very, very, very disastrous. Thank you, Prof.
Telling the community here what you are doing, and I hope they will tell their friends so that they don't start feeling that it's not well taken care of. And now, I think if you allow me, I can call Professor Walter Oyawa to tell us what he's doing for the country as NACOSTI boss and the boss of AFRA program with IEA.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, Prof. Thank you. Welcome.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Prof, for this invitation, and thank you to see Collins, Engineer Collins, one of our senior engineers in the country. Thank you for Shaukat. We were with you in Mombasa virtually the other day, and you gave a very good presentation. By the way, there are a lot of comments after that. Now, I'll be very brief because I'm not a nuclear scientist or physicist. And I'll go straight to the point, probably derived from what Professor Shakwat said, the socialization of nuclear science. I would have, Prof, I would have prayed you made it easier. If you talk about socialization, so that Wanjiku, we in Kenya we call everybody Wanjiku, so that Wanjiku can understand. My feeling, even at the level where I am, a little bit learned as I am, I still have that the feeling that nuclear science is about space technology, which ordinarily you find the normal Kenyan doesn't associate with. So as you say very correctly, when you go and try and get your stakes within the country, it takes a very long time. So that topic that Professor Shaukat has brought in needs to be discussed with the direct professionals like yourself, Professor Gitari, Engineer Collins, and Shaukat. The ordinary person where the stakes are being made need to know what are the benefits of nuclear science. Since I came in into NACOSTI on the 1st of May, so I would just very briefly, I won't share the slide, but I will have some 2 or 3 which I don't have to share for the sake of time. I titled it like strengthening the role of research and development in nuclear science in evidence-based policy making. So what I'm saying is that you become known and heard when the work that you do in research as a nuclear scientist ends up in making a policy, ends up in making, like what Engineer Collins is talking about. You're trying to create some organs, you're trying to create a regulator and so forth. So how does the kind of research, very advanced research that you people are doing on, is it isotopes? I did physics so many years ago, end up guiding the national discussions or national debate on the various issues that speak to the Kenyan economy. That would be very important. I don't have answers to that, but I think it's time that we scaled everything down. With the short time that I'm here in NACOSTI, I'm hearing that the benefits of nuclear science, which are indeed real in areas of agriculture, in areas of clean energy generation, that has not been shouted loud. When people hear of energy from nuclear science, they imagine the tragedies that have occurred in Japan, the nuclear fiascos. How do you mitigate against that perception that fine, it's a very good technology, but when there's a small accident, things go haywire, and the damage in the long term is worse than that you should never have had it. It happened I think in Japan, it has happened in Russia, it has happened in other areas. How do you tell people the deeper truth that those were unique cases, that we will not have these technologies here, they do well, and then one day there's chaos? Yeah, the other thing I would which you asked me directly, Prof, was AFRA. I'm still learning about AFRA, and AFRA is the bit that I've learned so far is an intergovernmental agreement established by the African member states to strengthen and enlarge the contribution of nuclear science and technology to socioeconomic development on the African continent. So it is actually part of my work and my team, and also with Engineer Collins, to really indicate the role of what is happening in nuclear science to the country. And I'm happy there are a lot of donations from Professor Shaukat, from the International Atomic Energy on these COVID times. I think that was highlighted, the contribution in the methods, diagnostic methods, the contribution in some of the PPEs. That needs to be highlighted much stronger, to come out stronger, that this is the time for specialized areas like nuclear science to come forth. So I'm currently the national focal point for AFRA. A number of programs are there in Afra, quite a number. And as I'm speaking now, I think you've just received a letter from, I think from Afra to be able to get the reports, of the project coordinators on time. So I am sure that by the end of that, I will have learned so much about what are these programs about, what are useful to the country. So I'm a liaison or focal point for that one. The other one that I'm also focal point, or the office, not me as a person, is a focal point for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, that's the CTBTO, where University of Nairobi again features very strongly. And we have been working, I've met, I think, Professor Pio several times. They have a very, very powerful facility in this country. I think probably the only one in the region, which again has not been highlighted. He's been there for quite a while. He's able to measure tremors, he's able to measure the testing standards. So I'm challenging Prof. Professor Gitari, you must be aware of this. It is time that you came out in the national scene. If you do things in the lab, we scientists are very good in the work that we do, very good with great minds. But when it goes out to where now the people are, then we are not doing so well. So there's a very important facility which I think we are hosting. But the University of Nairobi is the, I think, the key supervisor, which has not come out fully to Anjiko out there. So I'm a focal point for CTBO. Our work at NACOST is mainly as a regulator, and I'll just read you function number one of NACOST, which Professor Shaukat is very much aware of, being the key players in the development. This function number 1A, actually in the next 1 hour, we are debating very strongly with the NACOST board, because they seem not to have either been advised or they are not clear on this function number 1. And function number 1 says that NACOST, or the Commission, shall develop in consultation with stakeholders the priorities in scientific, technological, and innovation activities in Kenya in relation to the economic and social policies of the government and the country's international commitments. So we strongly believe even what NUPEA is doing, what my colleagues are doing there, should be captured in this grant document. I'm informed that this grant document is what informs the MTP3 in STI. It is what informs the formation or the creation or operationalization of, is it the National Physical Laboratories at Konza? So we are coming to this very soon to seek stakeholder input. What are the priority areas? There are so many areas of interest. But to avoid a situation where it's only Oyawa's things that are there on the table, we are going to have this discussion. In fact, in 1 hour's time, as I'm telling you, our board is discussing this to be able to understand this. They did the national research priorities, and it was assumed that is the end of it. But we are being told by experts from DRST, the people who actually were the key players in MTP3, that this document is yet to be done. It's like the sector plan, the STI sector plan for 2013 to 2017. But Professor Shaukat can help me on that one. So that is a key role. The other functions I will not go into. There are quite many. There are 17, but very powerful functions. What I would request is to figure out how we can collaborate in terms of the research being done under AFRA, in terms of the research being done under Engineer Collins, in terms of the great researchers being funded by the International Atomic Agency and Professor Shaukat. How can we synergize so that 1 or 2 big projects that impact on the country? What we're having now, and the challenge that even as NACOST, as the regulator, is the fragmented research. When you come to COVID, you hear KU is doing a ventilator, you hear JQuat is doing a ventilator, but nobody is coordinating this, nobody is bringing this to the table, the focal point. NUPEA is doing this, universities are doing this, nobody knows what the other one is doing. And I would believe that, Professor Shaukat, probably that was your dream when you were starting NACOST. We are supposed to be like the focal point for these things, one voice, so that in one shop you can say that so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing this, don't duplicate that. So in terms of what I was talking about, using evidence to influence policy, it's a big topic right at the moment, so that the decisions being made, like now when our Minister for Health gives the daily briefings, it should be anchored strongly on research. Yeah, on research, not on the generalities that are there maybe in the ministry, but based on researchers from the various institutions. So I will not add much, maybe in another forum I'll do that, but mine is more of how do you regulate the sector, but more importantly, how do you bring our things together and speak to the country and to the region with one voice, and we know what is happening in the country. And we get some 1 or 2 big projects which can impact on so many lives, rather than getting some millions which are split into one shilling. Everybody wants the 1 shilling, but at the end of the day, they are either research proposals or research projects in the shelf. Thank you very much, Professor Secretary. I'll be on and off in the session as I'm being called to other things. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Yeah, we need you for people to understand your organization more. But I see some of your colleagues are here, so whenever you are off, I believe you are giving them the permission to answer questions.
Fully. I've given the permission fully.
Yes. Thank you. And now, well, I'll comment on what you have said later, but after we have finished with the panelists. And if all you allow me now, I can invite Joseph Mainasi, CEO, Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, Prof, and good afternoon all.
Good afternoon, we can hear you.
Yes, I had a few slides, but for the time being and for better, I would like to maybe, I'm clear. Sometimes I get challenges on the computer, so sometimes I switch off the video for better, transmission.
Yeah, you can talk I think you can talk freely. The listeners, like Professor Walter said, is they are mainly they understand everything. Wajikos mainly are not many here.
Thank you, Prof. Let me not try to load, but as we have said, and as most of the participants are aware, is that the safe and secure, peaceful use of nuclear science and technology holds the promise of significant benefits in global socioeconomic development. And this range from medicine, agriculture, industry, research, and of course, nuclear power. We also know that radiation from these technologies pose special risks to health, to the safety of persons, to the environment, and this includes, of course, the climate change. And these risks must be carefully identified, managed, and of course, mitigated. Uncontrolled exposure to radiation or nuclear materials and other radioactive materials, which is beyond the limits established, may cause long-term health effects or contamination of the environment. And if the environment is contaminated, it renders such places sometimes uninhabitable for hundreds or thousands of years. So, as a regulatory authority, we desire for a robust national regulatory regime, which is an effective deterrent and a legal safeguard against the deleterious health effects, against, of course, malicious actors, against illicit traffickers, would-be terrorists or terrorists themselves, or even proliferators of weapons of mass destruction. So this kind of regime becomes an effective deterrent and a safeguard, on the other hand. The Nuclear Regulatory Act, which we are implementing as the legal regulatory regime for a country, ensures this, including the production. And as a country, you are aware we have gone into the production of short-lived isotopes with the development of the cyclotron facilities for the medical PET and SPECT technologies. We do bear the mandate and regulatory responsibility for the safety, for security, under the peaceful application of nuclear science and technologies. Of course, this goes with associated facilities, associated activities. We also bear the responsibility to protect persons who may be occupationally exposed and to ensure safeguards against proliferation of weapons of mass destruction from these technologies, these materials, and these facilities. Of course, again, as we are all aware, the regulated scope is in medicine mainly, in agriculture, and this includes, of course, livestock, as our prof has indicated, and fisheries as well, industry, and this includes the aviation industry, the mining industry, the manufacturing industry, all these part of the regulated scope. And infrastructure development, water resources management, which has again been mentioned, in the manufacturing industry, in teaching, and in research. The regulatory scope is well anchored in our national regulatory regime. Of course, the regulatory function embodies safety, it embodies security, and it embodies the non-proliferation. Other things include radioactive waste management. We are yet to have a nuclear facility, either a research reactor or a nuclear power plant. So at the time we are managing the radioactive waste, which is generated in the country. On issues research, we know the new and evolving, and of course rapidly changing technologies, especially in the medical applications, have necessitated constant research in this dynamic scientific field. Research programs where radiation or nuclear technologies are used are of course regulated, and the regulatory authority is an integral part and gets actively involved in all thematic areas of research to effectively regulate the peaceful applications of nuclear science and technology in research activities. At this point, I would like to appreciate the Institute of Nuclear Science and Technology of the University of Nairobi, which has demonstrated leadership and encouragement in research based on nuclear science and technology in their postgraduate programs. As a regulator, we are ready to collaborate. As the director Nakosti has indicated, collaboration is key in this field. I won't bore you with a lot of information, but let me say a well-developed regulatory regime is a benchmark for advising governments on international safety and security policies, international best practice, international standards, and it forms the basis for development of strategies in radiation and nuclear science and technology applications. It also provides, as a regulatory body, we also do provide advice and cost-benefit analysis, of course, to governments and key players in this sector on issues to do with priority agreements, treaties, conventions, and other international instruments that our country needs to ratify, to sign, or even to assent to as our national commitment and as our national contribution to global peace, global security, and to economic development, both nationally and, of course, globally. For students or graduates in law, this is an area in the nuclear field where their expertise is most required, especially in the nuclear field. On issues, nuclear power program, my colleague and friend, Engineer Juma, has elaborated quite well about the genesis of the nuclear power program in Kenya. And as we are aware, the nuclear industry is heavily regulated. Issues radiation protection, issues nuclear security, issues nuclear safety, issues nuclear safeguard to account for the nuclear material, of course, regulated, not to go into weapons of mass destruction. And Let me say a country's nuclear power program is a long-term national commitment and a national responsibility, which, among other considerations, is of course knowledge intensive. It requires a diverse array of competencies, skill sets, and preferably operating experience. And this operating experience can only come from such reactor installations as a research reactor. And I would encourage at this point probably the Institute of Nuclear Science or the Nuclear Power and Energy Agency to explore collaborative ways towards research reactor in this country in the very near future, both for research, for teaching, for experience, and of course for, regulatory updates. The regulatory authority also gets updated on how to regulate this particular field. So moving forward, and issues radiation protection, issues nuclear security, issues radiation protection, issues safeguards, issues strategic controls of nuclear materials, issues radiological emergency preparedness and response, issues nuclear terrorism, issues of radioactive waste and spent fuel, issues of nuclear instrumentation. These are fields within the nuclear science and technology sector that require expertise in their own special thematic areas. And the regulatory authority, because it is an overarching authority to look at the regulatory aspects for these facilities, collaboration, especially for those in research, either in waste management, in environmental radiation, the institutions probably to consider collaborative arrangements with the regulatory authority. We also desire to see the regulatory authority being an effective regulatory authority with at least some kind of moderate to full competency in most of these nuclear science and technologies thematic areas. There are issues, food and environmental monitoring, issues to do with nuclear accidents, and issues to do with development, implementation, the enforcement of regulations on radioactivity levels in foodstuffs, in consumer products, in environmental materials. All these are areas of nuclear science and technology thematic areas that are again quite wide. Personal dosimetry, so many other issues. To summarize, Mr. Chairman, Prof, let me allude to the government's 4 agenda, the universal health coverage. The application of nuclear science and technology in the health sector cannot be gainsaid, cannot be re-emphasized. Technology is improving, technology is requiring more research, and technology is requiring more and more people or well-trained people in this field. On issues to do with food security, we do have food security and nutrition. Nutrition now includes or requires isotope-based technologies, which is actually a nuclear science and technology area also. So even nutritionists, we do have room for them. Food security, we cannot repeat the issues of the nuclear techniques that have been said to ensure either the wheat, the livestock viruses, like the cysts, and the so we do provide technical reachback and sometimes regulatory support for those nuclear-based technologies that are involved in food security. When it comes to manufacturing, Mr. Chairman, the manufacturing industry is wide. And in the fabric industry, in the construction industry, in quality control of thickness, in quality control of products, fluids and liquids, metal sheets, tires, nuclear science and technology is the technology of the day. And of course, as a regulatory authority, we do provide either quality assurance coupled with, of course, regulatory oversight to these industries. It's a wide industry. With that, Mr. Chair, I would like to conclude that collaborative engagements are key in this sector. We cannot go it alone as a regulator. We need collaborative engagement with partners. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you very well.
Yes, yes.
Joseph?
Yeah, somebody had put me on hold.
Okay.
Why? Okay.
I'm sorry, Prof. So my concluding remarks is partnerships in the different roles and different diverse activities we are undertaking. We find convergence and we find the roadmap to becoming one of the Asian tigers in Africa. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Joseph. At least you have told everybody what your role is. We understand. Our request now, before you go to question time, I could mention one or two things. I'm having a problem, but it came late. I couldn't give up this webinar. And I feel that it is also important for this community to take home and tell their colleagues and the Wajiko, if possible, that where they hear nuclear accidents, the truth is the number of people who are actually hurt by the accident itself are very few. Probably fewer than a matatu when it rides down, when it collapses. The problem with the nuclear accidents is the feeling with the people, and when they are now the commotion comes in and when they are running away from it, because even in the north, where you expect knowledge to be widely understood, they still have that phobia. And indeed, if you go into details of reading, the problem is we don't read so much. You find that the nuclear accidents had hurt very few people. The rest died when they were just running around ad hoc all over the place. In any case, like Colin said, the mechanisms within from International Atomic Energy, who is a major regulator internationally, actually that's why well, it was because of the bombs that IAEA was formed, but also in such issues they are involved. And yeah, let me leave it there. Also, to tell Professor Ota Oyawa is that we need also to strengthen this program, which is coming up of secondary school and primary school program. That idea of pushing nuclear science and technology, in small ways in schools will be very helpful. But however, the COVID cannot let us move. I'm sure you are stuck with the COVID, but sooner everything is back to normal. I think that program will also help to reach Wajiko. In fact, the children, to my experience, are the best in delivering the knowledge today because they are also educated and they understand. Two, in the program of course, they have a section, I think, which speaks to Wajiko because they need the Wajiko support to be able to bring whatever, to be able to do what they want to do. Now, at that time, I think I'm very appreciative of the panel. I'll request my colleague Mangara, who is in the office now, to take over because I cannot manage to continue because a bit of pain and with the questions, but I will still be around, and if I'm forced, I will also speak. So, Michael, I'm sure you have good connections. You can take over. Wilson and John, you can try and look at the questions which are in the chat, even. But before that, I can request we open all of us our cameras so that John Biril can take snapshots for our future reference. John, are you able to do that?
Chair, as you take the photo, if there are any questions from the audience, I would appreciate to know, because I have another meeting and I will have to request your permission that I leave.
How many minutes do you have with us, Prof?
I wrote to you on the chat 10 minutes ago, Chair. I have to leave now.
I'm not a good manager. Anyway,
Sorry for that. But if there are any questions, then I can.
Yeah. Okay, let's open up to do you have any questions to Professor for IEA, Professor Chaukat? Anybody? Raise up your hands. Wilson, can you see whether anybody has raised the hand?
Yes, there is Eric Sitati.
Sitati.
We have Eric Sitati. Yeah, Eric, I think you can ask your question.
Thank you for the
unmuted?
Okay, thank you, Prof. I'm actually encouraged by the presentations, and my questions actually to the presenters is on employment opportunities that are available in this field.
Prof, I think you can take up that as the first question from the audience.
Yeah, I think employment opportunities available. I cannot see the person who was asked that question, Chair, but my second last slide was exactly on that. There are quite a number of opportunities. If you're looking at the international level, of course, one of the reliable employer is the International Atomic Energy Agency. You can be employed in the technical cooperation as a program management officer. You can be employed in the application as a technical officer in different disciplines of livestock, disciplines of areas of applications, physics, industrial application. You can be employed as an inspector here. If you have a legal background as a nuclear law expert, you have all these opportunities there. But also at the national level, you have NUPEA, and also at the international level, there is World Nuclear University. You have other centers of excellence in Europe and other parts of the world as well. Yeah. So there are quite a number of opportunities that are available.
Yeah. In addition,
yes,
the employer is now looking at outputs. So consequently, even though you did nuclear science and technology at masters, you can find yourself in an agriculture organization because they need some people, and I think it came out from the regulatory authority that they will require officers who take care of their issues there, and also in all sorts of employment. So in any case, in today's time, don't look at by the way, Shitati is one of the current students in the institute. Don't look at employment now. Invest in yourself with a strong education background, then look for employment afterwards. I don't think there is any discipline you can claim is immediate employment after you finish. That's all I wanted to add to Shaukat's. Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Yes, we have another raised hand from Zioka.
Zioka, okay.
Jay Mudama.
Thank you very much, Professor Gatari. I come from Wangari Maathai Institute, University of Nairobi, and I would like to hear your thoughts about, in terms of readiness, in quantitative terms, readiness for the technologies, not only for Kenya, probably for developing countries, and how to accelerate it, because I see need for breaking some silos so that from a multidisciplinary approach, then all these opportunities that have been presented, and they are very important, we need to get hold of them. But is that barrier of the readiness? What are your comments on readiness? Thank you.
Any of the guests, panelists can take up on that question. I think while they are thinking about the answer to that question.
Engineer is muted. I think
Chair,
engineer
I
is
have to
speaking.
leave my.
Sorry, Chair, I was saying I can take on that question. I believe he's asking about the readiness of the nuclear power technology, or if that's the case, then I can take that question and then we can release Professor Shaukat.
Yeah, I think you go on because it's multiple issues he has.
Yes, I think in terms of readiness, that's why you take that long lead time to prepare for the program. But you mentioned something about third world or developing countries. I mean, there are many developing countries that are already using the technology. If you consider South Africa, India, Pakistan, and some other Eastern Europe countries as developing, then they are already using the technology. So it's something that is in use, and you only need as a country to prepare. Readiness depends on the country, and no one will force you which route to take. IEA only gives you the guidelines that they have. I don't know whether I've answered it.
Okay, I think we can take the next the next question. Perhaps here I can ask a question to Engineer Collins. How much do you see is left, Engineer, in terms of getting to the nuclear power plant reality?
Okay, I would answer that question in two perspectives. I mentioned about least cost power development plan. So they do simulations on the power requirements depending on the demand. So, and they bring in the least cost power, or where least cost is that which source is cheaper than the other one, and which source comes next, and that kind of thing. Now, the last one they've done now in terms of demand and also the GDP growth puts nuclear at 2036. Now, coming back to what is on the ground with the new pair, you know, when you say, I want to take 10 or 15 years lead time, then you also state the resources that you require to reach there. Government has so many projects under their priority projects, which they are taking. So with the kind of resources we have, 2036 is possible. So I want to leave it there.
Okay, I think there is a question here on the chat. This question is from Ann Mutai. Are there any environmental barriers to implement the nuclear power plant, and how are you planning to manage the nuclear waste? That is a question, I think, for engineer.
Thank you, Anne, for that. I mentioned that there's a requirement for a national environmental assessment. And that is the first letter we got from NEMA to do the strategic national environment assessment. And we completed that a year ago. But I believe as we proceed to get the actual site, then there are environmental issues that we'll have to deal with. Yes, they are, but they are not barriers. They are compliance issues. I don't remember. The second question was on? Sorry, Bwana Mangala, I'm not able to read.
The waste.
How are you planning to manage the waste?
Yes, I mentioned the milestone approach from IAEA. Nuclear waste management is one of them. The only thing is that you have to have a policy of nuclear waste management as a country, and that is being worked on. Is one of the things I call work in progress. There are countries which have done very well in terms of permanent waste repositories, and maybe the world is the other players are trying to copy from them. Like Sweden has done very well. I don't know whether Finland is another one. So it's something that has been going on for 50 years, and waste management from nuclear actually are very little. You can imagine that for 50 years is when countries are now thinking of how you can do the permanent waste relocation. So we are working on it as a country using the guidelines we've gotten from the agency, but to assure you, it's doable.
To add on, if you excuse me, Mr. Mangala, to add on to Engineer Juma's response, let me say that waste management options are several and maybe quite a number. And it is a regulatory requirement at the onset of or at embarking on the construction of a nuclear power program that nuclear waste management option is agreed upon and approved. So as the engineer is saying, this is work in progress, and at that point in time, the country is going to look at the best management option, and that will be the option that will be approved for the power program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Joseph.
Michael, can you check whether John has managed to take any pictures? Because I have seen Shaukat has gone, Mudama left, and many others.
Okay, so John, maybe you can make a comment on this. John, I'm sure he's not in the house, but I think separately, Cairo, you can contact John and see if he managed to get the pictures. Here we are welcoming any other questions from the audience. Is there any?
Yeah, I think there are some raised hands. You can see Chesori and Kabasa.
Yeah, Wilson, let me help you in getting John by phone.
Okay. So you have two raised hands, Mike. So you can start with maybe any of the two.
Okay, you said who? Wilson? I cannot see it here. Okay.
There is Kabasa. Kabasa.
Kabasa, can you please ask your question?
Okay, good afternoon. So I think I want to thank the panelists for their presentations, and it's quite a unique panel where we have the industry, we have academia, we also have the regulator, and we have somebody standing in for research. And okay, some of what I have would be questions, other would be just comments. Like from Professor Oyao's presentation, he talked about there being no a research-backed approach into how we are going to implement or how we are going to sell the benefits of power and also of its applications in all its various elements. And even from what Mr. Maina talked about, how are we addressing the thematic areas of nuclear science? Do we have competence? Maybe if it is in nuclear medicine, if it is in food applications of nuclear knowledge, in these various thematic areas, we have a significant backing on its applications. And maybe of concern, I think, of concern to me is that we have very limited access to these areas. Like I believe from Professor Shaukat's presentation, where he talked about we have applications of nuclear knowledge in the different industries. But then within academia, do we have that provision that we have researchers or departments that are dealing in application of nuclear science in food, in agriculture, in water? I'm sure if we had researchers who are following up on these things, then we would say that we are prepared as a country to tackle these issues. On another front, I know the new pair has a nuclear roadmap of what it entails to do in the coming years and at what stages of the nuclear power program they are at currently. And a question, I think, for most of us who have been maybe studying nuclear science or have an interest in nuclear science, has been what is the country's commitment to seeing that we embrace nuclear science. I think Engineer Collins has showed us that there is nuclear power is something that is under consideration to be part of the energy mix. But then, are we committed to seeing that it is implemented? Even keeping in mind that our target was Vision 2030. But then what is our roadmap to seeing that we achieve the implementation of nuclear power in 2030? Even so, one of the challenges would be that we all know.
Excuse. I think give opportunity to the others. I think that has been, you've taken a lot of their time.
I'm almost finished. I'm almost finished. So we also know that we have a lot of people. I think we have young people who are studying in nuclear science. And these people would like to get onboarded into the process, even into the process of feasibility, into the process of setting up structures for nuclear industry. We must all come to an understanding that these are things that we'll need in the short term and in the long term. If it is matters of regulatory, we will need people who are dealing with regulatory. So what are we doing so that we can have those students who are studying in nuclear science, researchers who are in nuclear science to be onboarded into academia, into regulation, and into industry. I think that is all.
Okay, thank you. That was a really long comment and maybe a question. Perhaps now here we have even lost the question. Perhaps somebody who captured the question could come up and answer.
Michael, can I request Wilson to take the pictures? John is having challenges.
Okay. Go ahead.
I am using a mobile. I'm using a mobile. Probably be a challenge for me.
Let's forget it. We shall use the wrist. We shall capture the wrist in the chat.
Okay. I think that's all right. So next, I think Raphael, perhaps you can ask your question, but be brief and be specific to the panelist the question is being directed to. Thank you. Raphael?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Director Institute and all the panelists. Greetings from Poland. I must commend the inspiration by the panelists about what is happening in Kenya. And on behalf of the Kenyan young generation, we are excited that the industry is creating an opportunity for the young people, and more so that we are following the guidelines of the International Atomic Energy Agency on the developments of nuclear power energy in Kenya. I have just a few highlights that I wanted clarification or more so responses from Nakosti and also the regulator by Maina. Professor mentioned about fragmented research, and I wanted just maybe what is being done at the moment by Nakosi to address this challenge, because I think Nakosi has that mandate to see that all the policies regarding research in science and technology in Kenya is well coordinated, and that most of us who are in this field are adhering to that. Then another thing is like the issue of having one voice in terms of research areas that we are doing, and also channeling our resources to particular projects, not duplicating efforts, and also making sure that the impacts of our research is felt by the communities other than gathering dust in our shelves. So I think Nakosi can maybe give me some answers on that for the benefit of all of us who are young and the researchers in the field. Another from nuclear regulator, Mr. Maina mentioned a number of things, including the treaties that will propel these interventions on nuclear, peaceful uses of nuclear science and technology. He mentioned issues to do with protection, security, safety, and safeguards, radiological emergencies, and a need for collaborative approach to ensure that all these things are exploited and to the benefit of us all. I would like just to ask at the moment, how many treaties has the country ascended to, and more so on the preparedness on radiological emergencies. Now that we are going to nuclear era as a country, it means a lot to do with safety and security. And the last bit is, how are we engaging young people now that we are building a future, and the future is in the young people? How are we engaging them at the decision table, and more so taking charge of the processes that will see a future that we can all be proud of? Thank you.
Okay, I think Maina, Mr. Maina of the Kenyan Nuclear Regulatory Authority, and Prof. Oyawa, perhaps you can take those two questions from the participants.
One of the issues that has been raised is with respect to treaties. And the treaties Kenya has ratified with respect to nuclear safety, nuclear security, issues to do with UN Security Council resolutions. Let me say these are open documents, and they can be sourced openly. It's no secret. And you know, there are quite a number, like the spent fuel and radioactive waste management, the Convention on Nuclear Safety. We have ratified others, some have not, but they are open source documents. The other issue was, I can't recall the other issue. Can you repeat a bit?
I said our preparedness in radiological emergencies.
Thank you, thank you. Our preparedness on radiological emergencies, we do have a National Radiological Emergency Plan, which we intend now to integrate with the National Disaster Management Plan as part of the National Emergency Preparedness. But specifically as a standalone, we do have a draft But going forward with respect to the nuclear power program, of course, we are going to enrich it and add on to it as, development of the nuclear power program actualizes. If we get, for example, a research reactor, then definitely we will have to upgrade our radiological emergency plan as it stands today. Thank you.
Thank you. Laban, you had a question? Laban, you had a question?
No,
Yeah, I think there was
Otuoma
a
could
question
deal with
directed to.
the cost issue. Michael, I think
Okay.
Otuoma could deal with the cost issue.
Okay, Otuoma is there. Otuoma, can you? David.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Raphael, for the two questions to Nakosti. If I got them right, the first one is, what is Nakosti doing on research policies to make sure that they are well coordinated? And the second one was the impact of research felt by communities. What is Nakosti doing on both those two issues? If I go to your question. So what is Nakosti doing on research to see that research policies are well coordinated? So one of our mandate, and now we've been doing it regularly. And right now, if you go to our website, we have set out the priorities in research. And the priorities in research currently are in tandem with the current government regime of the Big Four. That is issues food security, human health, manufacturing, and housing. And of course, when we came out with the document, the universities raised the issue that research is not only in those Big Four. So right now we have a document which has got the input of the universities and research institutions, and it is available on our website. It is signed by our cabinet secretary, the current cabinet secretary, Professor Magoha, and it is elaborating the research priority areas. On your second question, what is the impact this research is being felt by communities? If I now narrow down on AFRA projects, and I take AFRA projects currently are in 7 thematic areas. We have projects on agriculture, projects on human health, industry applications, issues radiation safety, radioactive waste management, of course, the issues of teaching and research and training, and the last one is planning of energy. So that is where bringing in possibly nuclear comes in. So if I take the projects which are in the field of agriculture, the impact is felt better. And I will only take one project to illustrate that. This is a project to do with issues soil. So our cultural, there are 16 cultural research centers in Kenya. And one of these cultural research centers is just on Wayaki Way at opposite ABC Place. So this cultural research center uses nuclear techniques to see the soil, the nutrients in soils, and what plants are able to take. And what that research project has grown into is that in addition to AFRA, that is IEA and the Africa region, strengthening it, the project has cascaded to areas which are pastoral, and now we have people in those areas, in addition to looking after cattle, also growing plants, that is vegetables and what have you for human consumption. And that particular activity is mainly done by the women. And when this is being done, other institutions like USAID have come in, and they are putting in funds so that the project is expanding, and they are using irrigation now to grow these crops, so that because they already know the nutrients each particular crops take, be it maize, be it tomatoes, and so forth. And now that I think I've covered both to show the priority areas and the impact. And now that I have flow, Michael, with your permission, I would like to pose a question to all of us. This is out of 2 weeks ago, we had a workshop which was organized by Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, and it had people from South Korea. And this is what the South Koreans they saw about us. They saw that our institutions, be it Nakosti, be it Nuclear Regulatory Authority, be it NUPEA, and I can even extend, be it Institute of Nuclear Science and Technology of the University of Nairobi. We have this tendency. We have the tendency of looking for hares instead of taking good care of the tame rabbits we have. If you convert rabbits to be human beings, we train people, we employ people, and instead of taking good care of them so that they stay, we continue saying we are going to look for other people to employ, and then these good people we have, they leave. So we are always looking for hares instead of taking good care of the tame rabbits we have. So what would you say? Because as in Nakosti, we have a shortage of human resource, people in my line. If I talk of succession, who's going to succeed me in Nakosti? If I go to nuclear, my age mates who are there when we started the Judicial Protection Board, and they're going to retire next year and other years after next year. Who's going to take over from them? The same story in Institute, the same story in NUPEA. It would be good if we had a story from all of us on how we are taking succession management. Thank you for giving me the audience.
Okay, thank you, Dr. David Utwoma, for your comments and observations. So I think we shall not get into your engagement lately, but I think in this particular, I will ask another participant here who has raised up. Tarus, please put up your question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mangala, for allowing me to ask this question. And thank you, Professor Getari, for giving us the opportunity to participate in this seminar, literally. Okay. And thank you so much, the panelists. Well, thank you so much, the students also who have raised questions. My name is Kiplabat, and I am a student at the Institute of Nuclear Science and also a former student at King's. Yeah, so mine is about the same questions that have been raised about unemployment. Really, there's an issue with unemployment in the industry. As we really took up this course in nuclear science, we couldn't imagine that after earning these advanced degrees, we could actually not get employment. But it is what it is. Maybe it's because of the budgetary considerations in the government, and we may not get employed anyway. So anyway, the second point, this is directed to Engineer Collins Juma. Most of the questions raised here is about safety. Well, there's an aspect of it also on nuclear power, which is cost. I've not had much of it, and the concern is, well, most of the countries that really went into nuclear power, they did not just start from nuclear power. Most of them actually started from research reactors and things like that. So I'd like to know what is the agency doing in terms of research reactors, because that's actually what the convergence of academia and industry actually starts. These research reactors could be very important for academia. The next thing could be about small modular reactors. Recently, I looked at a document from IEA, and they listed so many SMR technologies from different countries. So as the world is going into that direction also, I don't know the capacity of the nuclear power plant that we want to put in place. Is it that if we go to the traditional models, I mean, it's going to be high power, and we know about nuclear power plants. It may not be taken up by the grid at the moment, because if you introduce 600 megawatts, for example, or even 1200 megawatts, and considering Kenya Power, for example, at the moment, that's not even feasible. So what is the development in small modular reactors according to NUPEA? Thank you.
Okay, I think there is a representative for the NUPEA here. Maybe Jasir, Edwin, you could take up those.
Yeah, Prof. How are you, Mangala?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. How are you? Welcome.
Yeah, I want also to pass apologies from Engineer Collins.
Okay, so
because he has gone for another meeting.
Okay, thank you.
So as I answer the question, I think Kiblabat has raised three issues. The first issue of unemployment. The second issue is in terms of the safety and finance. And the third issue is the issue of SMR. And I think these are very, very important issues that has been raised. And I want to first of all start with SMR. In terms of SMR, we are doing reactor technology assessment both for the large nuclear power plant and also for the small modular reactors. And according to our assessment, the SMR is actually gaining a lot of trust in making sure that it can be deployed in newcomer countries. And even as I speak right now, we are attending another meeting with the US in SMR, and also we are working together with the Koreans on the SMR. So this is something which is pregnant. The time has come, and we are really working on making sure that maybe we can see the possibility of SMR being deployed in our electric grid, because of the dynamic, the easier for them to be built, the low cost, and also lastly the issue of compatibility with the grid. The only challenge is the issue of proven technology as SMR, because we don't want to be a first of a kind. And secondly, is the issue of regulation. And as you can see, our regulator is in the house. And also one of the things that we are doing in this training with the US is that they want to build the capability of the regulator to be able now to regulate the SMR. That is said. Now, the second issue is the issue of safety and economics. I think that is something which is very important. But according to the studies that you have done, and also the financial and ownership contractual obligation that we are looking at, we believe that at the end of the day, that once we have the least cost of electricity, the cost of electricity, nuclear actually is ranging very, very low. And when we look at the issue in the coming years, the issue of the carbon tax and carbon price, I believe that nuclear will be a very competitive aspect. The only challenge about nuclear is the high investment cost in the initial. And I believe that we as a country, we shall work with a country that will be the vendor to see the possibility of maybe G2G, but also this is something which is under consideration. In terms of employment, I think this is something which is very, very important. And we believe that even as we have trained many people in Korea, we urge and we believe that these people are going to be employed in the coming days, so that we can be able now to really make sure that those people who have been trained, they can come and give back to their society. And I think that is what I can say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jasir. Now maybe I could welcome another participant there. Douglas Mwangi, please ask your question. And I think that should be the last question. Then we can wrap it up. Douglas Mwangi, are you there? Maybe if Douglas cannot be reached, my question is on national priority in science and technology. That is to Dr. David Otuoma. David? Yes, David Otuoma.
Yes, I'm here.
On national priority in science and technology, how do we rate the knowledge management? Where do we put our priority? How is it prioritized? And then there was this issue of 2% of GDP for science and research. What is the status now? I think this was raised by Professor Shaukat. So knowledge management, how is it? Is it prioritized? What is the priority level? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mangala, for your excellent questions. So the second one is much simpler, so I will do it first. The Science, Technology and Innovation Act, which came out in 2013 and came into effect in 2014, created three entities. One of them is NACOSTI. Our role is to assure quality of science, technology and innovation in research in Kenya. The second mandate we have is to advise both national and county governments on issues, science, technology, and innovation. That is the role of NACOSTI. The two other entities which were created is Kenya. Kenya is Kenya National Innovation Agency, and they are to scout and see where innovations are, empower them. If the issues of incubation do exactly that, then the agency which can address your question is the National Research Fund. National Research Fund, when it was created, just after it was created in the Act, it says 2% of the GDP should be taken to research. And the job of the National Research is to disburse or to see what should be done with that 2% GDP. Just for you to have a flavor, in 2018, the revenue which was collected by Kenya Revenue Authority and everybody else who did whatever was useful in Kenya, our GDP was just above 700 billion US dollars. So when it translates to 2% research money, which should have been 120 billion Kenya shillings for research. The one which National Research Fund was given in 2018, and that's the highest fund National Research Fund has ever been given, was 3.3 billion out of the total of 120 which they should have been given. So this year, they've been given less than $500 million, and it was because of issues that 3.3 billion, even the absorption rate from our own institutions was wanting. But I will not go into that, but you have the statistics. The National Research Fund is the one which is supposed to disburse that 2% GDP, which in 2018 was 120 billion. Now, the issue of knowledge management. Now, what NACOSTI does as far as our mandate is concerned on issues advising government, we invite you people, we invite people from research, we invite people from universities, and we invite all people of goodwill, and they look at a document we have done on issues of what are the priority areas. And when we invite you, you have to explain to us who are going to do this work. So if I take, let's say, my alma mater, the Department of Physics, and I just take one area of their thematic areas, issues nuclear, we look at their staff. So we had a professor there. The professor has retired, and the current regime in the University of Nairobi has not renewed that professor's mandate. So they have no professor in that thematic area as I'm talking to you. Then we go to associate professor. They do not have one, but they have senior lecturer too, and they have a number of normal lecturers. That is somebody with a PhD, and they have a number of people pursuing PhDs and masters. So on issues nuclear management, knowledge management, I can say we have a long way to go. And if I come to us in public service, it is very good that our current chairman of Public Service Commission has issued a circular saying that once we reach 60 years, there will be no tolerance of people going to be entertained that they want 3 years extension because there's nobody behind them. We should do our succession management well in advance, knowing very well we are going to vacate these seats we are holding now and pass the baton to the afternoon generation as us in the evening generation fade out. But as NACOSTI, that is not our mandate. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bwana Toma. Certainly, knowledge management economy should be prioritized to see most of these projects we are embarked on. And I think the other question I would like to put to Shaukat representative, perhaps Felix, if he's here. The question is, how should we prepare our students and other people interested in working with the IEA? What are the opportunities with the IEA for employment? I think, and this is very key to most of the students on this particular platform listening. Tell them how can they get to the IEA? Felix, yes. Felix is not there. Maybe Otuoma, you can.
Yeah, Felix is not here.
Okay, perhaps Otuoma, you can also tell the audience here on how we should prepare them for employment with the IE. And perhaps that's also very important if we cannot employ them locally. Sorry.
Actually, the policy now in IEA, if I read what the current Director General is encouraging, and this is very good if you ask me, the current Director General has come up with this view that by 2025, there should be gender parity in technical. So, for example, I was privileged between 1998 and 2006 to work with IEA. And that time, that particular Director General had a policy that he wants people from developing countries. That's how I ended up as a nuclear safeguards inspector. So it depends with whoever is in charge. The person in charge has a vision, and that vision, if it is carried out, like the current Director General actually would wish a day when 50% of the workers in IEA are from our agenda and the other 50% are from our fair agenda, that is the ladies. But coming to your specific question about how to join IEA, IEA in particular and CTBTO also, which I had a privilege of doing an interview with, their recruitment system is such that there are 3 levels. Level 1 is what they call support. Level 2 is professional, and the highest level is the decision makers. So the support, it's not very easy for us to get jobs there unless we are already in Austria, for example, because that's where IEA is stationed, because they prefer the local peoples. And support is mainly jobs which, just the name as it says. The second one, professionals, it starts from P1 to P5. Now, P1 to P4, it depends with your experience and your background. That's how you end up there. And currently in IEA, in 2019, there were 14 Kenyans who are working there in professional levels. Felix, who used to be my colleague here in Nakosti, is one of those 14 Kenyans at professional level. Now, the professional staff, in total in IEA, they are just below 1,400 people in the professional staff, because the IEA system, 2/3 of the staff are professional. And then the director level, like where Professor Abdurazak is, from P5, director, D1, D2, those are the directors. Those ones, you need your country to support you. And by your country supporting you, it means His Excellency the President, and of course the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in our case, the Cabinet Secretary. They have to make a case for you to have that position. And that case, for us being Africans, we have an African group which is composed of the 53 African states. They have to support your candidature for a particular position. So in addition to your qualifications, your experience, your country has to support you, such that our ambassador in Vienna has to knock the doors of the other ambassadors and make your case. I thank you for asking the question, but I can explain better how they do it now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, David.
Michael,
But David,
Michael,
sorry. Yeah.
In addition to David, he has forgotten internship also, where Kenyans are not very aggressive.
Yeah, another question I wanted to put to David is that how does he explain many Ghanaians working for the IEA than any other African country? Because that should be the key. We want to see how we can get also our students and prepare them for the jobs with the IEA, of course. Thank you. David, I'm still with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now that you mentioned West Africa, and I will just use those 2 countries, Ghana and Nigeria. Ghana in particular, Ghana has Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, who in a way, they are an umbrella organization which brings together all people who are, whether in agriculture, human health, or you want to go nuclear. They have a small research reactor, a small poke from China. It's all under the armpit of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, and Ghana Atomic Energy Commission is headed by a Director General, and their system there of getting a Director General is extremely egalitarian, because all these areas, be it agriculture, be it radiation safety, be it the research reactor, be it industrial application, they are headed by directors. So these 7 or so directors, they're just like in the IEA system. They have 6, 7 deputy director generals. So in Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, these directors, all of them, last time I was in Ghana, they had 6 directors. So every 2 months, let's say director for agriculture will be the acting director general when the director general of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission is on an assignment outside the office. And the next 2 months, let's say March, April, the next director is the one to act. So and then they have a system with their University of Accra. They have the School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences. So this School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences takes students to do masters and PhD. And these students, when they graduate, they have their masters or PhD. But before they do their thesis, they do their research in Ghana Atomic Energy Commission facilities. So even the Director General of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission, after serving his 5 or if 2 terms, 10 years, goes to the School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences as a lecturer. And so they have a revolving door system. And because of that, their mentorship system is extremely powerful, because let's say if I was a lecturer at the Institute of Nuclear Science, and then I have my students. When I come to work in Nakostis, some of my students come here as interns. That's how they do it in Ghana Atomic Energy Commission. And when these students are with them, they make them be aware of International Atomic Energy Agency. And every time the Director General of Ghana Atomic Energy Commission is on assignment in IEA, or any of the other directors, they always make a case of their students. And that's how Ghanaians start with internship, then later on become professionals at the International Atomic Energy Agency. And unlike us, who actually, without being biased, us, we are more interested in money, but the Ghanaians are more interested in books, in papers. Somebody is proud to tell you he has a PhD, he has a master's, while here, I'm proud to tell you I have an apartment or apartments or matatus, so that I actually show you guys I have money. But Ghanaians, their culture is a little bit different from ours. I thank you, Michael Mangala.
Okay, thank you. I think you have more or less said it all. And I think now here at this stage here, perhaps somebody, maybe Kesire, perhaps you could comment what happens with the Vision 2030, because looks like it's the blueprint for development infrastructure in this country. What happens when it's passed beyond 2030 and all those all those visions projects have not been implemented? Thank you. Kesire, perhaps you can comment on this.
Thank you, Mangala. I think one thing that we are talking about here, we are talking about the demand for power. You know, that is the biggest thing that we want to really push forward. And I think as an agency, what we are doing under the Ministry of Energy, we are reviving the demand creation committee, because nuclear is to meet the demand for power. And if actually the demand for power is not going to be there, then the nuclear power program always will be having as a moving target. So I think the best thing that we can respond in the terms of the nuclear power program is demand for power. And I believe that once this project, which has been identified as a flagship project under the Vision 2030, and also other new demand creation, then I believe that now nuclear will be a reality, because nuclear is not in its own right, but is supposed to power the demand that is going to be created by industries and the projects which are power intensive. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Bwana Jasiri. And I think that's very good. So at this point, perhaps, Director, I could come back to you and say whether we have anything else to, or should we just wind up?
No, I think I have nothing else. I think we should wind up because I think it was very interesting, and I can say I hope everyone benefited.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Somebody is also talking. I don't know who.
Okay.
Cecilia was not muted.
Okay.
So in reality, it was very good that all the CEOs from all these organizations managed to come. You have had them. You had the opportunity to ask questions. If you didn't ask, then you can always send them a message. And he started with trying to ask a question on what is going on. So for me,
exactly. I wanted to ask a question, but if we're winding up, then I really don't want to delay people here.
How hot was the question? How long is the question?
Please be brief, specific.
No, actually, it was about research reactors, and I think Cecilia could have answered that because Dr. Toma also had highlighted that the reason why Ghanaians are successful with their program. I think if Engineer Cecilia can actually just shed some light on it, it could be important.
The Tarus, sorry. Okay, I think, Prof, you are saying something before you were interrupted with the.
Yeah, maybe we give Edwin to say in short terms what they are doing. Even you, Michael, you people have been in that committee.
Yes, and I think Edwin has said it very well that their program relies on the demands that are there, and the 2030 the blueprints for infrastructure development, which are key. Those are the demands, which were the demands requiring energy. And so that justifies this very well and also should accelerate the nuclear power program by extension. And that's very good. So I think we should also be, and I think October said something there, which I think we should be incorporating a lot with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in some of the issues, especially linking to international organizations for placement and also for training and for opportunities of our people. So that I think when we train out there, we come back very experienced and very skilled. In that way, I think all these projects should be run successfully with the skills and requisite trainings offered. And I don't have much.
That's all.
Let me answer the question that has been raised.
Yes.
That research reactor is an important component in the nuclear power program. And as we speak right now, we have actually write to the National Treasury for research reactor program to be identified as a priority project to be funded by the National Treasury. Secondly, we have a team that is actually spearheading the research reactor program that is actually consolidating multi-institutional teams. We have members from NACOSTI, we have members from the institute, we have members from the regulatory body, we have the members from the CONSA. And as we speak right now, we have a site that is in CONSA Technopolis, and we are working so closely with the Korean, and we did what is called the justification report, which is out. And right now we are doing the issue of feasibility study for the research reactor. And we are doing that in consultation with Korea, and also KIPRA, that is the Kenya Institute of Policy Research Institute, is helping us to do the techno-economic viability of the research reactor. And I think this thing is something which we as the NUPEA, and one of our mandates is also research in the energy sector. We are taking it very seriously. And I think in the coming years, we hope that we shall be having our first research reactor, even as we go towards the issue of nuclear power plant. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Maybe lastly to Joseph. Joseph, are you there? Joseph
No.
Minor.
Yes, I am, Chair.
Okay. Joseph Minor, the last question for you.
Do you want to ask another question, Mangara?
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
I think we should cruise down now. It's already 11 past.
Okay. The last question. How are we doing in developing standards and guidelines, especially in regard to nuclear safety? Maybe mention to us one standards or two.
Yes, as you are aware, the authority is quite new, and the first staggering steps are towards establishing itself as a body corporate and delinking actually from the ministry. Those are administrative, but in terms of developing standards and regulations, these are on our implementation matrix for the new law. And we are looking at probably early next year, the second quarter, to start the development of the regulations and standards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Perhaps, Director, now we can come back to you for.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. And I really appreciate everybody's presence. I hope all of you have gained something. And in the future, if there is a demand, we can always call these same people to come and tell us what is going on. But the idea is for you to tell people what nuclear science and technology is all about. And for the students, I still feel in today's status, you cannot pick any discipline which has an offer of a job by the time you are finishing. That you should be aware. And in fact, the best thing is to go through internship. After you finish, look for internship aggressively. In any case, what is your opportunity in life will be yours, but it will be sad if that opportunity comes around and you don't have supporting foundational knowledge. Those are the things you should think at now. But if you start aiming for a job now, you are not even finished, you might make yourself you might create a disastrous future for yourself because you might be discouraged. For now, I think I'll stop there. I would have liked to talk a bit more. At least you have heard. Let's get the feedback and let us know whether the webinar was of any value to you. You can always send a message to Cairo or post it on our website. Who posted on our website? Thank you very much. And you have also the social media connections. Please, and I wish you all the best and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cairo.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.